But this part of the system looks very standard, even though it's in the D zone. You know, it's kind of like... Anyway.
Okay.
June Street.
Ready? Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to the Westport Board of Health July 8, 2024 meeting, which I am calling to order. Following announcements under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. And please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And we are going to have a presentation by Linda Pierce, our town nurse, on the subject of stroke. Next.
Good afternoon, everybody. My health subject is on stroke and how it affects the patient. A stroke is a blood vessel blocked to the brain or burst of vessels in the brain. Your normal blood pressure is 120/80. Stage 1 is 130/80. Stage 2 is 140/90. And if your blood pressure is 180/110, please call 911 and go to the emergency room immediately. A diastolic, that's the lower number, of greater than 120 can damage the brain, the heart, and the kidneys. Signs and symptoms of a stroke are facial drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty, vision problems, trouble walking or lack of coordination, loss of muscle movement, and severe headache. Call 911. Women also experience general weakness, disorientation, and confusion. The stroke usually affects one side of the body, and the emotions. It affects depression, anxiety, PTSD. The stroke patient can have fits of crying, laughing, mood changes, and brief fainting. Frustrations with the patient, they get angry and aggressive towards others. They strive for their independence and want to make their own decisions, even though they are not the right choices for their recovery. Some of the risk factors are high blood pressure. Too much caffeine can raise high blood pressure. Heart disease, diabetes, birth control pills, high cholesterol, obesity, and smoking. Recovery time is different for every individual patient. Having physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy are examples of what they need. Everyone recovers at their own pace, which can produce frustrations for the patient to regain their independence. Don't ever say to a survivor, "You don't look like you had a stroke. You're not working hard enough to get better." Say things like, "How is recovery going? Is there any way I can be supportive?" Strokes can happen at any time, at any age. The public needs to be aware of the signs. My 51-year-old friend, on her birthday, thought she just had a migraine headache, so she drove herself to St. Luke's Hospital, where they discovered she had had a stroke. She went by ambulance to the Rhode Island Hospital, where she spent over 6 weeks in the neuro ICU. She's still recovering after all this time and does not know what the future holds. This is something that's very important. People think that it's okay to eat excess of salt, be obese. They need to change their diet and exercise at least 30 minutes a day, stop smoking. There are so many factors that can help a stroke come along, and you don't want to be the recipient of that. So hopefully people are paying attention. I'm always here to take blood pressures if anybody needs it. All you have to do is give me a call to make sure I'm in the office, and hopefully we'll stay a lot healthier. My next blood drive is July 18th, but it's going to be at White's Family Restaurant from 2 to 7 p.m. If you go online with American Red Cross and you want to donate to register, that would be great. So hopefully we'll have a good turnout, and like we usually do. And anybody have any questions?
Just because it's very hot today, does heat increase risk of stroke? I know there's heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
That's heat stroke and heat, the other kind of stroke are two different things.
Okay.
But you know, anytime like this anyway, we need to stay cool, we need to hydrate, we need to rest. We don't want to be running in this, you know, that's not going to cause a stroke, but it's certainly not a healthy place to be. So you've got to use common sense with anything that we do and pay attention to your surroundings and what's going on. But, you know, being a certain weight and the smoking is a big factor with strokes. So hopefully people are listening and I can help save some people. So it's up to you.
Thank you, Linda, appreciate that. Okay, moving on to the director's written report. Any questions on that?
I don't have any knowledge.
Nope.
Okay, we'll move on to your verbal report, please.
Okay, the annual transfer station stickers are required as of July 1st. Stickers are on sale at the transfer station and the Board of Health office. And just as a reminder that the transfer station only accepts check or money order. They do not accept cash. If you only have cash, please come to the Board of Health office and the clerk staff will help you out. And the public health nurse offers a weekly blood pressure clinic on Wednesdays from 8:30 to 11:30. Clinics are held in the nurse's office located on the first floor in the Town Hall Annex building, located at 856 Main Road. And as Linda touched on, blood drives have been scheduled for the summer. They will be held at Whites of Westport from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Next one being on July 18th, August 29th, and September 19th. Animal control will have no on-call coverage on Tuesdays and Wednesdays starting July 2nd. Once a second officer is hired, coverage on those days will resume. And the grant group is looking to add a full-time community health worker to the grant staff. The intent of the position is to have the person work in the different communities to provide social support, education, advocacy, and for the health needs of the community, individuals, and groups.
Do you want to mention that we have your staffing shortage at the transfer station? And I mean, you have coverage right now temporarily, but
Yes, we do. We're down one person. I do have 2 interviews set up tomorrow morning for potential candidates, but yeah, we're short-staffed, so please, be patient if you visit. They are working hard to get everything, done and keep up with all the different aspects of the transfer station. So.
thank you. Any other questions from Matt?
Nope.
Okay, let's go on to director approved plans.
Yeah, I have one. It looks like I have, it's Donna Pena Cruz on 59 3rd Street on a 30,000 square foot lot. It's a repair of a 4-bedroom home. They're going to be using an Avantex with a bottomless sand filter. There are no local upgrade approvals or variances, and it would need a 4-bedroom deed restriction.
And has not yet been reviewed by Concom, that's correct. It says no here.
Yeah, I don't think it's been by since we did the agenda. No.
Okay. All right, I'll accept the motion.
I move that we approve, or we endorse the director-approved plans for 59 3rd Street with a 4-bedroom deed restriction and Concom review needed.
Second.
And the usual IA compliance stuff.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous, thank you. Okay, next order of business are our minutes. We have two sets of minutes, June 10th and June 24th. Any questions or concerns on June 10th?
I don't have any, Madam Chair.
No.
As
I
I-
wasn't at the June 10th meeting.
Okay, so you will be absent. All right.
So I move that we approve the minutes for June 10th, 2024.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And abstain. correct? You were not present.
I was at the 24th, but I wasn't at the 10th.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't do the
So-
24th. though.
We just did the 10th. so
Oh, I
just-
apologize.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
So that's a 2-0 vote with 1 abstention. Okay, June 24th.
I don't have any questions or concerns about it.
Me neither.
Okay, so I move we approve the minutes for June 24th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous, thank you. Okay, moving on to other business. The first agenda item is the total nitrogen testing policy for new construction. This came up recently from Barnstable County. We have a property that has completed the first 2 years of testing, and the question was, okay, now what? And our regulation says upon 2 years and upon a finding of compliance with this regulation, in other words, below the 19 for both test results, the board may reduce such monitoring. What I was wanting to float out there for consideration is that we kind of automate that. By default, if the test results are good, that we automatically either reduce or eliminate future rounds of testing to simplify matters rather than having to have a finding each time. If the default would be if both results are below 19 and everything else is in compliance, that they can automatically go forward, no further testing or limited, depending on how folks think. So I wanted to put that on the table. I have to talk to Barnstable County to figure out how we can do this mechanically, to streamline both for them and for us. We don't have the staff to routinely monitor the results. We were getting them from Barnstable County once a month, and Matt and I would look at them, but they have staffing constraints as well, and they can't do that anymore. We can go into the database to look, but that's not something I have to, do on a regular basis. And again, the staff, they just don't have the time.
Can I just ask a refresher question? So, how do I phrase this? So we use some kind of a rolling average. So like when they report this is the test result for whenever the test result is sampled.
Yeah.
But they don't go back and then say, and at the end of year 1, the rolling average is X, above or below 19. And so I'm just trying to figure out, maybe this adds a level of complexity to it, just in terms of how we interpret the reg or how that's implemented, because you would need, I guess, to figure out what the 2-year rolling average was at the end of the second year, even though there may be some that are above 19, but some sufficiently below 19 that it would average out. So
that's a good question, and that's something I can talk to Tracy about. The regulation itself says 19 milligrams per liter standard shall apply to a rolling average of sampling results over a 1-year period.
Oh, 1 year, okay.
And then if it,
right. So you do 1 year, 2 years, I guess.
Yeah.
But then I don't know.
And there's the other variable is that, and depending on the approval letter, there may be ongoing, sometimes it's quarterly by DEP, sometimes our standard is less. If it's less strict, obviously they have to go with the stricter.
But it would make sense at the end of the 2 years to average those 2 years together, because it could be they took steps in year 2 to lower it and lowered it enough that now they're on the course to continue to meet the standard.
Okay.
I'm just talking off the top of my head, but I guess I'm saying you just can't go back and look what's on file. There's a little bit of math involved to figure out if they're in compliance.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting
Okay. Well, I just wanted to get the sort of the feel of.
But the idea of automating it is, is good.
Both for at Tracy's end and at our end, it would simplify things. So,
Maybe we can ask the person who's taking the samples, the person who's doing operation and maintenance to do that.
the database in Barnstable County, I have not played too much with it. You can download and put it into Excel and do all sorts of fancy things. I'm not very proficient at that, so I
Yeah.
have not done
Right,
that.
yeah.
But I think there's a mechanism. But let me talk to Tracy, get some
Okay, yeah.
feedback from her, and then we'll come back. But I just wanted to at least
Okay.
put that on our radar
Yeah.
for something that we should explore. And it sounds like we agree that we should try to come up with a system to simplify that. And then obviously, if it doesn't meet that standard, then either the testing continues or they could come in and we could talk about it and figure out, they say, well, the first year it wasn't really tweaked right, and so on and so forth. But at least for those that are pretty clear cut, it'd be nice to just move it off our plate and simplify. Excuse me 1 second. Simplify the reporting with Barnstable County. Yes, sir.
I have a question on that.
Mhm.
Manual source 316 Gifford Road. So this testing, so we're looking forward to, if they meet the level of the standing, they're no longer going to have to continually test annually.
That's the idea that we're exploring, that we'd like to be able to do on, that's allowed under the regulation now, based on a manual process of the Board of Health would have a finding that says, yes, we'll allow you to eliminate
So
testing.
how many of these systems that have been installed have you done that?
This is the first request that we've gotten. So this is the first that's made the 2-year threshold, and so it's the first one.
Okay. Well, so what about the high school? We've been testing that. We've been monitoring. How are the test results on that?
I don't know.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. That was not based on this regulation, so that would be a different scenario
It
probably.
was still a denitrification system.
Then it would be subject just to the DEP requirements. This was before, I was on the board before this regulation was in place, so I believe the planning board implemented the requirement for DNIT at that system,
Yeah,
at that
definitely
location, so I don't know if they have any other standards.
But it was the installation was under the jurisdiction of the Board of Health, correct?
Yes, but not subject to our local regulation, which was not in place at that time. So it would only be subject to the DEP requirements. And whatever those are, they may not have a provision that allows reduction of testing. We're just talking about the testing that's required under our regulation.
This is a pretty large project for town. Do they have a certificate of compliance on that septic?
I don't know.
Could you ask your director?
well, yeah, so we would have approved the installation of the system, but the reporting would have gone through DEP because we didn't have a regulation that required system owners to report to us, which is what we have now, because the system was installed based on our regulation. I think that's what the chair is saying.
So do you know if the system was installed to your regulation?
Was installed,
To
No.
DEP regulations?
DEP regulations?
To Title V?
well, it was, the system was installed consistent with Title V, but DEP has an approval letter that goes out for a particular system that requires the owner to do certain things. I don't remember what they were at the time, and so it really, and since we had no regulation, there'd be really no reason for that system operator or owner to be sending us data.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about generally on a Title V system for
Right.
certificate of
Right,
compliance.
right.
Do they have a certificate of compliance is what I'm asking.
Oh, well, I'm pretty sure they do.
So we didn't issue one at the time because we just very, very recently got an as-built. We don't issue the certificate until we get the as-built. It's kind of
Okay.
like, you know, you get that when we get what we need. So we just very recently got it. Jim, it came through Jim's, the town administrator. So we'll review it and send out the certificate of compliance after we review the as-built.
Yeah.
Like I said, we recently just got it.
Oh, that's interesting, okay.
So I'm assuming they don't have a permanent occupancy permit.
Okay, I think we're moving a little off topic
No, I mean,
from
this
the
was
agenda item.
Okay. That's fine.
Thank you. Okay, next, the Scout MOU update. I just wanted to give folks we've discussed this before. We have the Scouts before us. We drafted a memorandum of understanding. It was reviewed by town council and they suggested it needed to be signed by the select board as the executive for the town. So it is on the agenda at the select board today with the MOU just revised to reflect the select board as the signatory authority and some minor changes to the language around Board of Health responsibilities, but this is essentially what was negotiated with the Scouts. So we have intended to post the select board meeting so that you both could attend if you wanted to. In the rush before the 4th of July, that didn't happen. So what I would like, if you have any questions about any of the changes or anything going on, otherwise I'd like authorization from the board to authorize me to represent this Board of Health at the meeting and to allow, who do we decide should sign it if the Board of Health is also going to sign it, just in case?
Yeah, you're on the same page.
Yeah, well, there would be a representative, it wouldn't be all three of us, same thing with all of them,
Yeah.
just a designated representative.
Yeah, it doesn't need, so.
Yeah, so just allow a designee to sign it. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to allow the chair to represent the board at the select board meeting and designated signatory. Thank you. All in favor?
Work. Thank you.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. Next, board member updates. Well, I start with you, Phil.
Let's see, do I have anything to update on? No, just to say that the first meeting, I guess, of the Hazard Mitigation Committee is on Wednesday. And so I think we talked about this, the last time. This is we have a 20-year-old, what I think of as kind of like an emergency response plan, but it's an emergency response to, natural hazards. And so it is, there's funding, so there's a consultant, and they're going to work with a whole bunch of people in town and through a public process to come up with a new hazard mitigation plan. And so I'm representing the board, I was a member of the planning board, the chief of police, fire chief are the core of the committee, and then there are numerous other invitees to participate in the, at least at the first meeting anyway. And I think they're going to do a whole upgrade of what I'll call the demographic information to get an updated profile of the population, the areas that have particular vulnerability, the infrastructure, and then devise strategies that could be implemented, and I think over the next several years to address, climate change, hurricane, heat, I hope, which was not on the extreme heat, which is not on the existing plan, and whatever it is, that comes out of the analysis that's associated with it. So.
Well, relevant to that, I mentioned the Alert Network email that went out, and I will forward that to you. But as a result of that, I was trying to find, the heat advisory map, you know, whether we were in it or not. And for this next 7-day period, they said the heat advisory is for. And I came across, I think it's on the climate and health section of the DPH page, but an updated community profile,
Yeah,
which I
yeah,
downloaded. Like we have a higher than statewide average percentage of elders living alone, for
Right,
instance,
right.
or things like that.
yeah,
It's not specific to micro areas, but are you
Right,
familiar
yeah,
with getting
yeah.
that? Because I downloaded it, I can send it to you.
yeah. Yeah, I think I've looked at it when I was working on the heat part of the climate resilience report, because that focuses on vulnerable populations, and so I looked at the elderly and, you know, and some other data. Yeah, so it's good that DPH, you know, kind of collects that. And so
So you
hopefully a
have-
lot of this data, you know, and the advantage of us having consultants is that, not us, but
They can do
the committee, you know, that they'll have access to a lot of that data. And we're not the first one out of the barn on this, so I think that there's a lot of procedures and, you know, data analytical tools that should make it pretty easy to, you know, collect and analyze the data. And it's
Well-
coming through Serpent too,
Mhm.
is part of a regional plan, so.
Well, I'll forward that alert email and the community profile.
Yeah,
that I
do that,
downloaded.
yeah,
Just for reference.
right,
Okay,
yeah,
great. Well, thank you for
yeah.
working on that. I know it
We're lucky we
might-
live on the coast because
It's cooler here.
it's cooler here, and generally speaking, you know, we're gonna be cooler in the future,
Relatively speaking.
relative to
Would
other
that be a good
areas.
shorelines article?
Oh, the hazard, yeah, probably a little early.
Yeah, it's too
Um,
soon.
The hazard mitigation planning
Oh,
stuff,
Yeah,
doing our health notes.
oh, yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
before you do a public outreach or something to.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, tomorrow's the first Wednesday's the first meeting, so, let me look at the lay of the land of, you know, about
Yeah.
what's going on. I mean, the
Yeah,
consultant has circulated a summary of it, which Matt has, and I can circulate to you all.
Didn't we?
Maybe I did already, but anyway, it's just
I
kind
got
of
it.
described,
Yeah.
you know, kind of describes the background, what their intention is, what the public process is, you know, is going to be. And just as a postscript, it seems that there's an overlap between what the Hazard Committee is doing and what the Climate Resilience
Yes.
Committee is doing, at
Yeah.
least for some areas. So
Absolutely.
hopefully the public outreach part of it in particular, you know, may be able to be integrated in some way. Otherwise, every other week there'll be a hearing about sea level rise.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
The only thing is I'm gonna start working on a shorelines column, probably related to vector-borne diseases and watching out in the summer. So,
Yeah.
and I have agreed to take on the lead of the possibility of a composting station at the transfer station. So I'm going to be working with the person who suggested it and see what we come up with as time goes on. And then I've also agreed to be part of and lead in the opioid settlement task force focus group committee, whatever we're going to try to formulate to help guide the select board on the utilization of the funding that has been given to the town.
I had a question about that because, you know, the Supreme Court rejected the
I know.
Purdue settlement, and I just wondered how much of the, you know, was the assumptions about what was going, the level of funding that was going to go into the trust based on the settlement that Purdue.
It's a good question. It's multi-organization. CDS has to get, there's
Johnson & Johnson. I think what the money that's coming in is from the existing settlements that have
Okay.
not been challenged.
Okay,
Purdue
from
is
other,
not- Right.
because I think they're not the only manufacturer of oxycodone.
Right, and it was also the
settled cases. I was just curious.
distribution, it has to do with the distribution and the
Yeah,
monitoring and all of that.
Right.
So it's coming from many sources.
Right, okay.
But that particular one was that it wasn't going to protect the family. My understanding
Right,
is what the
right.
ruling
Well,
was, they weren't going to be
right.
protected from future
Right,
lawsuits, so.
right, but that protection was the basis upon which they agreed to pay however many tens of billions of dollars. So with that gone,
Yeah,
the settlement does not exist, and they're gonna now have to go back and either decide whether the case can be settled or what it is, but, I mean, I don't know the answer to this, I just wondered in the course of your discussions with people
something-
whether that issue came up.
well, that'll be something to look.
Yeah, and I'm glad there's still money in the pipeline.
There
so-
is, and there, but the thing is that the committee or the task force is really for making recommendations to
Yeah,
get input from the community about, especially from those that were directly impacted by opioid addiction, especially those that have lost family members to opioid addiction.
yeah.
And so, and also, the idea is that, there are some players or some other organizations in town that really would want to get access to that funding. I know the school department would. I know that, possibly fire for the EMTs, those that have to
Right.
respond to those calls.
Right,
So I
right.
think I've agreed to take the lead on
Yeah, no,
looking
it's-
at that and formulating a task group to be able to address and then present something to the select board.
Yeah. Well, it's always, what I was gonna say, it's always good to know that there's money in the bank, which motivates people to think about what it is they really want, rather than just as abstract.
Right.
Well, the Attorney General's website has specific town by town,
Yeah,
how much
yeah,
is distributed from different sources
Yeah, yeah,
and when.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
And then we now have an account because at the
Okay.
town meeting, it was voted to move the funds into its own designated account, so.
okay. I don't think I have. I do have, I've been working on that, sort of a draft of the tight tank regulations for a working group meeting discussion, and I have just the outline of the relevant parts for reference for our discussions at 5 o'clock. But other than that, I'm working on other projects that are keeping me busy. Okay, and it is past 4:30, so we're going to move on to I'll call the 4:30 p.m. Variance hearing. Len Potter representing the 173 Atlantic Avenue Trust for the property at 173 Atlantic Avenue. This is a 3-bedroom repair with a quick 4 on a 30,056 square foot lot. Mr.
Good
Potter,
evening,
welcome.
good afternoon.
Definitely.
This is rule, right? Yeah. This is 173. Here's the copy of the letter that I sent and the green cards. I don't know who wants them.
I'll just take it and pass it on to.
Okay. Then this is essentially a hearing per your regulation 6B. For installing a tank where there is no tank, there's a cesspool. So your regulation says that,
Wait a minute.
go
We're
ahead,
talking about 173 Atlantic?
what's that?
We're talking about 173 Atlantic?
Yes.
Okay.
That the one you want?
Yeah, I didn't think there was a tight tank.
173, what's that,
It was a
please?
septic tank.
Oh, septic tank.
The one that previously didn't exist there was a cesspool, I believe.
Oh, okay, okay,
Mhm.
sorry, I'm confused, sorry.
All right, there's a cesspool, and we're doing a septic system. There's no other waivers. This is a variance per your regulation, 6A and 6B. My question to the board is, this is what they call a till ridge, glacial till. The state regulation, I know you're going one beyond that, but it says no septic tank, humus toilet, must be encroaching in the velocity zone on a coastal beach, barrier beach, or dune, or in a regulatory floodway, except a septic tank that replaces a tank in existence on the site, 31st. But this refers to a tank in a velocity zone on anything but a till ridge. And I've been to DEP with a member of the board who doubted it, and when we got up there, we talked to the engineer up there, and he said that, well, your board member said that they probably forgot to put a comma in. Your regulation goes forth and says virtually the same thing, except it says that should be installed following areas: coastal beach, barrier beach, bank, inland or coastal, dune, regulatory floodway or velocity zone or a flood zone, except a septic system toilet that replaces a septic system or cesspool in existence on the site. I think the regulation essentially, and also, what does it mean, no newly constructed or increased flow? In this particular case, there's no increased flow, but what's no newly construction mean? It's not installed, so it's not a newly constructed system. So I think you ought to look at your wording on that.
You're proposing to install a new...
Yeah, but that's not what it says, no newly constructed. It's not newly constructed, that's past tense.
Okay, so no new septic system, is that what you're saying?
Proposed, maybe.
I think we
I mean,
copied that out of the Title V
No,
language.
it's not in Title V. I got Title V right here.
shall be constructed, we use newly constructed, okay.
Oh,
Shall be constructed.
I don't want to get into a big debate. I know you got a busy night, and so do I. But all I'm saying is, think about what's going on. In a barrier beach, in a velocity zone, coastal dune, blah, 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 it's sands. So what they're concerned about is that the overwash in the storm will destroy the tank. But in a till ridge, that doesn't happen. Even on the beach, after this last winter, I had a few tanks, a couple that were destroyed, the rest were tested fine. So all you're doing is adding one more cog in the wheel that has to be looked at. That's all I'm saying, because we're gonna be going through these hearings ad infinitum, because they make the velocity zone bigger and bigger every year. This used to be an A zone when I fixed Ann Grapes next door. But regardless, we're here tonight. I need a variance granted to allow the septic tank to go in, be installed on this property.
Okay.
And that's all I need.
Okay, so the septic tank cannot be located outside the velocity zone,
No,
either horizontally or
No,
vertically. So
no.
that is, okay. That's actually a variance under, as you say in your letter, 213.2E.
right,
So you're actually looking for a Title V variance.
right.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, but see, in Title V, this doesn't apply because it's a till ridge. It's not a barrier beach, coastal dune, bank, it's yada, 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 yada. But you're making it so in your regulation.
Is it in a velocity zone?
Absolutely.
So no soil, that's under A is the glacial till, I think. But
Yes.
no soil absorption shall be constructed in a velocity zone on a coastal beach, barrier beach, dune, or in a regulatory floodway. Is it in a regulatory floodway?
No,
Is it
So
in a
you-
coastal beach?
no,
Is it in a barrier beach?
no,
Is it in a dune?
no.
Okay. All right, so it's not.
They're till soils.
Okay.
That's why you get a perk rate of, let me see, 20 units per inch. That's not sand.
Okay.
There's about a foot of sand that from the 38 hurricane. And to raise the tank above the flood zone is crazy, because the existing grade right now is at 910, I'm sorry, 1080, 11. And if I try to get that tank above the flood zone, which is a V20, that's the whole tank has to go out. So the house would have to be up on piers 20 feet to the bottom of the first horizontal member. From the first horizontal member to the finished floor is about 2.5 feet. So the bottom of the tank would have to be about 22.5 feet above flood zone in order to get the tank completely out, which is what they want. And if you're building the house up on stilts, well, you can do that.
Yeah.
But you can't do it here. unless you build a tower.
Right.
And I know you know that, but I'm just trying to
Yep.
stress.
Okay.
Well, I think both of I think Title V is confusing, and it could be that we, that it dripped over into our regulations in a way,
Yeah,
but the location, so the fact that it's not on a barrier beach is because there isn't a water body on the
Right.
other side of
Correct.
Atlantic Avenue.
correct.
It's not really the till part of it or not till, it's the.
Well, that
fact
makes a difference, because I had a property on Third Street, Schlesinger's house, and he wanted to expand number of bedrooms. And the board said no, because you're in the velocity zone, and they insisted that. So I said, I don't believe that, so I talked to, I think it was John Viveris up there, this was 20 years ago.
Right, right.
And so, one member of the board who insisted that I was wrong, we had a meeting all together up there in Lakeville. And their regulations specifies the barrier beach to go through Dune to Bank.
Right.
But Till Ridge is not in the velocity zone. And they let Mr. Schlesinger expand his system.
Okay.
Because even though it was in the velocity zone, it's a Till Ridge. And you can check, it's on Third Street, you can check the rules, the regulations of the report.
This section of the regulation was just an incorporation of a reg that was done under Sean Leach, maybe.
I don't care who did it, it's wrong.
So we didn't revise the language, we just sort of incorporated it in,
Well,
but you're pointing out a language that we can,
Yep, work on, no problem. Otherwise, we're gonna be having hearings on infinitum.
so that's something that we can look
The
at.
cesspools have been there since the 1930s.
We want to get it out of there.
I agree, and let's get it out of there, let's make it as conducive as possible for the owner to do this. I mean, this is,
DEP has pending regulations that will not allow any new structures to be built in these zones.
yeah, any new structures?
Yeah, any new structures in these zones. I don't know if it'll be adopted, but that was the.
Is that gonna be, a taking by eminent domain?
I don't know. That's what was proposed, any new structure.
Maybe coming down the pike, so,
Yeah, whatever.
okay.
Yeah.
I have no property in the V zone, so I'm not worried about it. Nor do I wish. Okay.
Okay.
So, any,
So we would make a finding, right, in a sense that it is not, well, at least if we were, so Title V doesn't apply because this is not in one of those areas,
it's not in
It's your regulation.
you know.
It's per your reg.
And it's just in our regulation because it,
that was, I believe, when the Board of Health did this in, I think it's 2012,
yeah,
they wanted to expand, so
Yeah.
we just,
right,
we didn't change the regulation, we just
Right.
incorporated it into.
It's not a problem,
Um,
you have to grant a variance.
Okay.
okay.
Okay, and you have made a case that the tank cannot be placed outside that area.
No,
horizontally
cannot.
or vertically. Okay. So, any other questions or thoughts?
Just, Matt, did you have any?
It's just not feasible to elevate the tank, so.
Yeah, okay. So I would entertain a motion to, based on the finding that maybe you could do the motion?
Sure, I guess, yeah. So I move that we approve the plan for the 173A Trust at 173 Atlantic Avenue, a 3-bedroom repair on a plan dated 4/22/24. In doing so, we're granting a variance because it is not feasible to install an elevated system or locate the system components outside of the velocity zone. And subject to a 3-bedroom, a deed restriction, and a hold harmless agreement.
I second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Unanimous. Okay. All right, is it ditto for 177?
Yes,
Okay, we don't have to go through the discussion again.
Not
Well, let me
hardly.
call the hearing, sorry.
not hardly.
Let's be kosher
Can you
here.
do that?
Call the 440 variance hearing for Len Potter representing Christine Root at 177 Atlantic Avenue. This is a 3-bedroom repair with quick floor on a 30,056 square foot lot. Exactly the same size. Okay,
Okay, it's a very similar situation. We're replacing a cesspool with a septic tank and a Title V system, and there are no variances. It's on the quasi-public water system, there's no wells, so we just need to get a variance per your regulation again, 6A and 6B, to allow us to install the tank to replace the existing cesspool. That's it. There are no other waivers or variances.
Okay, so I would move to approve the plan for Christine Root at 177 Atlantic Avenue. 3-bedroom repair on a plan dated 4/24/24. In doing so, we're granting a variance based on the fact that it is not feasible to locate the septic system outside the velocity zone, nor to raise the septic tank above the velocity zone, subject to a 3-bedroom deed restriction and a hold harmless agreement.
Second.
motion made and seconded to approve the project at 177 Atlantic Avenue. All in favor? Aye. It's unanimous, thank you.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Foster.
That's it for now, I'll be back.
Yes, sir.
No way.
I'm not threatening you, I'm just telling you.
Okay,
Thank you.
the next one is a discussion. Manual source for Crane Avenue, map 24, lot 27A. This is a request for an extension on an expired permit for new construction. Good afternoon, Mr. Soares.
Manual Source 316 Gifford. I'm here in my capacity as installer, licensed installer, Granite City Crushing. I'm the president, and I am looking for an extension that was denied by the director on a piece of property that I own for a septic system that I had designed for where I'm was planning to put a barn. I went to pull a permit, and I was denied, and I was told in writing from the director that Title V 3110 CMR 15.02 allows 3 years for approval date with a possibility of a Board of Health granting a 1-year extension if requested prior to expiration. There was never any extension requested, therefore the disposal system construction permit application for map 24 lot 27A Crane Avenue expired on February 2nd, 2024. If the applicant wants to move forward with this project, a new application, plans, and fees will have to be submitted.
And your request is not to be required to submit new plans and applications?
Correct. And my request is to give me an extension. Had I went in there on February 1st and pulled the permit, I wouldn't need an extension. So I went in there in March, and I was denied.
Right, as Title V requires you to pull a permit before the expiration or ask for an extension prior to expiration, which is, happens periodically, and usually people will submit new plans because 3 years has passed, more than 3 years have passed. Are there business circumstances, has anything changed with the plan? Has anything changed with your plan, for instance?
The only thing that changed with my plan is the Board of Health regulation.
Okay. So you're still planning to build a barn?
It doesn't matter what I'm planning to build, I got a permit for the septic system.
It does matter what you plan to build.
Well, okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves here, okay? I was planning to build a barn.
Okay.
I preserved my rights for this piece of property, so I didn't have to follow your denitrification regulation, okay?
Right.
Okay? And another thing that I'd like to explain to you is that during COVID, all the permit extensions were extended, and I believe that still applies. So because I came in a couple of weeks after to get the permit, which, what I'm looking at this right now is I've had a few permits being withheld from me, from the director. I am attempting to pull a permit on a piece of property right now that I'm moving forward with, and I am spending money on engineering for what I'm going to go forward with on this piece of property. But I'm not going to spend engineering on a septic system that I grandfathered my right prior to. And I'm not going to install a denitrification system on this lot.
Is there any plan to subdivide this lot?
Yes, there is.
Okay. And you're planning to still subdivide it and install barns?
Excuse me?
This plan is still valid? In other words, the
So that plan, originally, that septic design was for my house, okay?
for your septic design on this property is for your house?
Was for my house.
Okay.
So when you started I had already re-perked it and installed it on another location on my property. When you moved forward with your Westport Board of Health regulation, I was planning on putting a barn at that location. So that's why I went and had that redesigned. Right now, I am subdividing that to build a house for my daughter, and I want to use that septic system.
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. This design was for your original house
Yes.
at 316 Gifford Road,
Yes.
but that's not where your house is.
Well, this is a 16-acre parcel.
Okay. A septic system location is important. If on a 16-acre parcel, your septic system was designed, this particular design was moved to another location, you have to look at.
Excuse me, it wasn't moved. Originally, I was going to build a house in that location.
Okay.
I built a house in a different location. This is a 16-acre farm that I reside on, okay? I am going to take a lot for my daughter and build a lot on that.
What it strikes me is that there are a lot of circumstances that have changed here. You are no longer building a barn. We don't know whether there's other wells that have been installed, and that's why we normally
Okay.
require before an
Again.
extension.
Again,
But, excuse me, I'll let me finish. If a permit has been expired, that you have to submit updated information, and I believe that would be.
my request was because furthermore, I would have pulled the permit had my license been granted to me when I applied for it.
What do you mean your license?
Well, I applied for a renewal of my license in January, and because they didn't accept that my insurance automatically, I'm a corporation.
Oh, okay.
My insurance is on, so they withheld my license until March, when I got the paperwork to them. Then when I went in, they told me that I could not do this. So whether I decide to put a bond there tomorrow, or I decide to subdivide it, it's irrelevant right now. I have a permit for that, to put a bond there. I want to pull my permit to preserve my right to that septic system location. Nothing has changed other than your regulation, and I will spend the engineering on whatever I decide to do. If I decide to change the bond to a house, or whatever I decide to do, if I decide to subdivide it, I will. But the one thing, so Title V has that regulation in it, but, some of those things were, like the water tables and stuff, that was prior to. So I've also been an installer for 40 years under Title V. I was installing systems before the Title V upgrade in town when we had 25-foot overdigs. I'm fully aware of what the Title V regulations are. I was installing systems when we did the perk test and we put the pipes for the water table. Soil, the soils, nothing has changed up there that will change anything from this design. I've also, the whole subdivision, I did all the septics in there, every septic next to it. The only thing different in this neighborhood and none of them have been upgraded, is the systems that aren't compliant in the neighborhood, other than the ones that I installed that are compliant, that abut me, but none of them have been upgraded at this point in time. And this was all approved. This was actually a location that was approved to put the house in that location. Now I purchased other property that I'm gonna add to this, and that lot is no different than the lot was when the whole subdivision was done in 2008, 2010.
Okay. The current plan is for two septic tanks for 2 different buildings, correct?
Correct.
And just to understand, and that you have indicated that you may change the design.
And I will have engineering the engineering will go to the building department, because that's what I'll need for a building permit. Whether I keep this and I go for a building permit for a barn, or if I go to build a house there, whatever happens there, the septic will change and the engineering will be done now. I am not gonna spend $4,000 to redesign a denitrification system on this lot.
So we need to, I feel like we need to break out 2 things, because it started off with, and in the normal course of things, someone comes in and says, I missed the deadline, and I want to get an approval of the plan that they submitted, an extension to have.
Not to interrupt you,
Please.
Mr. Weinberg, cannot interrupt you, but the amount.
What are you doing but not interrupting?
Because it's taken me several weeks to get in front of you, and things have actually changed. And the reason I'm not putting the bond there is because I've bought land otherwhere in the town, and that's where the bond's gonna go. So other than that, when I went in for this permit and I was denied for being a couple of weeks late, I was denied. So
No, I think it's one of these situations in which the regulations are really clear cut. Okay, so just, which says from the date that your permit is approved, you've got 3 years not to, to complete the construction. And then you can come in and request, before that period expires, a 1-year extension. And
Okay.
so you've had 4 years and there's been no activity on it. And so there's that piece of it. And if you were just going to, this is my personal opinion. Now, if you were just coming in and saying, I want to go ahead with the plan that has been approved, because you're asking for an extension of this plan, more time to implement it, then I would say, I personally would not require you to submit a re-engineered new plan. I personally would say, go out and, either get a registered sanitarian or an engineer to say, I visited the site, there's no changes on the site, you should extend the plan. Okay?
So, and what would that cost me?
I don't know, but this.
Okay, so I'm saying I don't need that.
And
Well, listen to me, and you say there was no work done? No, there was work done. We were
Excuse
building a
me,
retaining
Mr.
wall, we were
Soares,
leveling the
Mr.
property.
Soares, please allow
Just let me
Mr. Weinberg
finish
to
what I'm
complete
saying,
his
okay?
statement.
Which is,
Well, we could cut it right to the
Mr.
short and say, deny me now, and I'll go to I'll have to appeal to the DEP. I'm just requesting that I get an extension that I was a week late for.
there's no appeal to DEP, you have to go to Superior Court.
Okay,
So
then we'll go to
let's-
Superior
so let's
Court.
work
We
it
already
out.
have some other issues with
Let's work it out.
Mr. Amendo that we can deal with that
There's
in.
no reason that we can't work this out. Okay, so in my period of time on the board, we've never had someone come in and take the position that they don't have to follow through and request an extension and object to what the regulations clearly require, okay? So one of the things that I think we try to do as a board, and, is to be consistent. to be consistent in the application of the regulations based on the facts that we're presented. And you have this large piece of property, and you're not arguing there's a financial reason, a financial hardship involved to renew the plan. You just object in principle and are really asking us to adopt a new principle which would basically say anybody who wants to, who comes in and doesn't comply with the regulation and doesn't like it, can just say, you have to do it, I don't care. And that's not the way we want to run, that's not the way we want to run this. So there is an easy way out to get an extension of the plan. If you want to go to Superior Court to prove the point, you can go ahead, but I just don't understand, Mr. Swords. This is this part of it, this part we're talking about now is a mountain out of a molehill thing. The second part, because you're not even asking to extend this plan, what you're asking for is to extend the plan.
My septic regulator, my septic, so.
But the septic plan is based on what's being constructed on the property.
Okay, so I can
You
come,
would have to submit a new plan
All right,
with
so-
the size of the home. We don't even know how big it is.
Oh, oh.
How do we know that this plan, what if you came in and said, gee, I'm talking about a 3-bedroom, I think I'll do a 5-bedroom.
right, so
we don't know
so
that.
when I go for my building permit at the building department, and this has and Sean Leach, because this same plan had a 3-bedroom house on it. So there's a plan approved in the Board of Health with a 3-bedroom house on it, in the same plan. We changed it to the bond. That's all I'm looking to do. Look,
I know.
and I am not looking to do a so one more thing on how a mountain out of a molehill, and like I said,
Well, this part of it is, I'm saying if you were just asking to submit this plan,
no, all I'm asking for is
to extend this plan, but you're not.
No, all I'm asking for is an extension to my design that I believe was extended during COVID anyway. That's all I'm asking. And then I will do my due diligence to my engineering when I go to get a building permit. That's when I will change my plan, when I decide what I'm gonna do, which I haven't fully decided what I'm gonna do on the lot. But I right now, I am preserving my right to that septic on that lot. Because, I mean, there's one right on Gifford Road where they built the septic.
Well, if
And
you-
they've gone in, they've subdivided the land, they've changed from a duplex to 2 houses, and the same septic's there.
So-
So had I built it, I wouldn't have a problem now, would I? But
So-
that's happened in the past. But because I'm 2 weeks late on getting the permit, because I was gonna go there and finish building it. I mean, I actually had moved the machine in there to do it. I go to pick up my permit and I was denied.
Okay. So, and the plan that we would extend is this plan. So we would issue an extension, but it would be limited to not approving, to this plan. So if you did anything else but was on this plan, you would have to submit a revised plan.
We will, whatever I decide, if I do not build that bond, you will get a permit that shows the location of whatever structure I do. But if you look at it, that's a 3-bedroom septic. So,
Why does a
There
barn
will-
need a 3-bedroom septic?
well, because that was already existing, okay? And my house is actually,
What was already
that
existing?
design was already there because I was originally gonna put my house there. So my house is actually 3,000 feet away from this. And when I was gonna build the bond, because that was also said when I was gonna do this. So I was gonna build a barn. If I had to go to the bathroom when I'm in the barn in the back, where do I go?
Right.
So I had a perk test and I had a design that I spent money on, and I was utilizing that, okay?
Okay, so you have a new design for your house?
My house is built, the new septic, the
And you
whole
have a
9
new
yards.
design for that?
Right, and now I was
Do you have
gonna
a
put.
design- Do you have a
Yes.
design for that?
Yes.
At the
It's
location?
approved, I have a certificate of compliance.
Okay. This is an expired plan. It didn't meet the
So-
requirements of Title V.
Okay,
If
so
you-
what does COVID say on permit extensions?
That is
They were
not-
all extended.
That is not relevant.
Okay, so we can deal, so you're gonna deny me that, you're gonna deny that to me?
You are not in compliance with Title V.
No, I'm,
You are out of compliance with the provisions of Title V.
huh?
you may request a variance to say why it is manifestly unjust that you are not in compliance.
So then
with
you're
title
gonna hold me to the Board of Health regulation, okay? You're gonna hold me to the Board of Health regulation, I'm gonna have to do a denitrification system on this lot.
Well, that's a separate question from whether you would do the minimum amount.
Because I'm not gonna-
Plan approved. That's what I was trying to.
Because the way it is right now, if I decide to build a bond there, I'm gonna go build this septic right the way it is.
You do not have a permit to do
Well,
that.
I'll do it.
But you can, but you can't put it, but you can't, you can't presume that if we approve this plan, that you
All I'm looking- all I'm
you
at-
can build a residence on it.
Okay, again, all I'm looking for is an extension on this plan.
Okay, all right. And so, would you agree to?
My engineer, who I've already hired Sean Leach to deal with the rest of the stuff, will
Right.
do whatever. I'm just looking for an extension on this permit.
Okay, so then would your engineer, this is my proposal, okay? You know, would your engineer submit a statement that says they've reviewed the plan, they've inspected the site, there is no change in the site conditions
Or what's being constructed.
for what is being constructed?
When I move forward, whatever the future, when I go to pull the permit, yes, I will do that.
Pull the building permit?
Yes.
Okay, but not for a residence. That's
Whatever
the-
I decide to do. It's irrelevant right now.
I think probably.
It is not
we're-
irrelevant.
It is relevant, and I think we're at an impasse. So
Okay.
I would suggest that a motion would be
Denial?
appropriate to, we're not
Well,
denying.
you-
You are not in compliance with, we're affirming that you are not
Well,
in
what
compliance.
my feeling is I am in compliance because my permit did not expire because, and all I was requesting at that time, and again, things, because I'm an honest person and I'm telling you what I'm moving forward with, because I have hired an engineer, but I'm not gonna have my daughter spend more money on designing the system because I know you have a septic regulation. That's why I went and moved and got this approved during the grace period.
But what would have been an appropriate thing to do would have been to put this plan aside and submit a new plan, or have it to come in and have a discussion about it and say, I want to forget this plan. I want to submit a new plan with with the house on it, and here's where the house is going to be located, and you'd have a new plan, and then we could have the discussion. And you could request a variance from having to put in a DNAT system. And then we could have the discussion about, should we give you a variance or not? And what are the extenuating circumstances from your point of view that justify that? But right now, the only thing that is in front of us to approve, to act on, is this
Extension on my permit, so I want an extension on that permit, put a bond on there. That I requested a week after it
And
expired.
I gave you my opinion is what you would have to do. Give us something from your engineer that says nothing has changed on this site, and this plan represents the conditions.
Okay, no,
And then we could say, okay, this is my proposal, okay? I don't know if the other board members agree with it or not. And then if you wanted to come in and submit a plan, a revised plan that has a house on it, then we could deal with the other question. So,
I'm trying to avoid my daughter paying engineering costs multiple times. So, again,
yeah, so-
and the day I ask, so my real problem is that I'm a couple of weeks late on an extension, and your director denied me. That's what my real problem
As he
is.
should have done, because
Okay.
I want to say something because I've been really quiet and listening.
Okay,
But the idea that there's some kind of blame on our director is doing his job,
okay,
and that is his job.
yes.
And there is a process that everyone has to go through
Okay.
to have their plans approved to have an extension. There is a
Correct.
process. So we're talking about a plan and a process and not persons here. Because there is responsibility on your part, which I've never heard you say that you have any responsibility in why you didn't submit this on time.
I'm
So
I kinda-
blaming, excuse me, I am not finished. Blaming the board and our process is not acceptable. You have a responsibility, and we've given you the responsibility of what you need to do. You need to do it.
Are you finished?
Now I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. I understand all my responsibilities, okay?
Okay, so you have a couple of options of how you wish to proceed. You can, you can submit new plans with whatever you're proposing going forward. It sounds like a house. And you can request a variance along with that in order to avoid the D-night requirement for new construction, arguing either manifest injustice or equivalent alternative environmental protection. So those are the standards for the variance. So that's one option. Submit a new plan for what you're proposing to do there. The second option you have is you are unhappy with our holding Title V requirements. There is no variance option for that. You had to have to go to Superior Court.
Permits were all extended during COVID. Permit extensions were during COVID. And I believe they still exist. So,
This extension would have been February of 2024. There were no extensions in place for COVID at that time. You can make that argument in court if you choose to.
I don't.
So that's your second option. The third option, which we have not agreed to but has been proposed by Mr. Weinberg, is that you submit a statement from an engineer saying that the plan is exactly as, all the conditions are the same as originally proposed, and that we could, under extenuating circumstances, somehow allow a waiver of the Title V requirement to have submitted that before February 2nd.
so the waiver I'd be looking for, the Title V requirement, is just the extension.
It would just essentially be, to my mind, just a recertification of this plan. If you were, and then, but you would only be able to build what was presented on that plan. That, but
So,
I'm trying to.
so the plan was a
It's the-
3-bedroom
It's
septic.
the money about saying my
plan
engineer, I'm
and
gonna
two
have to
barns.
produce a new plan,
Right.
but it's only for the barns. So if you're really not interested in doing that, then getting an extension for this doesn't make any sense. And you
It's
should
an
just-
extension for a 3-bedroom septic design on my property.
Yeah, but we don't,
we don't approve a design without the surrounding information.
Well,
So
I gave you,
I've laid out the three options you can pursue. I can't guarantee you the outcome of any of those three. So you can either go to court, you can.
oh, yes, we
submit-
can. I understand that fully.
You can.
Like I said, I've been working under Title V for 40 years, so and just as Phil knows, Phil came from the DEP, I understand that, okay?
I don't
Okay.
understand why you're doing this, Mr. Sorensen. I really
Well,
don't.
I'm just, well, first off, what I can explain, so I also have a letter here from a complaint, a written harassment complaint that was brought, and we had it in executive session where I had legal counsel representative on another project. So well, this is a discussion, no? That's how it was put on the agenda, a discussion?
Discussion about.
So this is also a permit, no, it was just put as a discussion. So I have a permit on a project.
It is a discussion on a particular topic. It's about lot.
That's not really how it was, that's not
Avenue.
how it's put on the agenda. It says discussion, manual source.
No, the agenda says, discussion manual source for Crane Avenue, map 24, lot 27A, request for
I
extension.
don't believe
on
that
an
was,
expired
I don't believe that
permit.
was the way it was posted, but that's fine, we can just discuss that. But Sean Leach will handle the rest of that stuff. However, I believe that your intention is to force me to do a denitrification system on this lot. And I'll, I mean, that's a Board of Health regulation that I feel's an unfunded mandate to our people in Westport, which in this case, will be myself, and I'll have to pursue that however I have to pursue it, but, my problem with the director on not giving me an extension, I mean, it's unfortunate.
That is what Title V requires. It has nothing to do with the director. So we've given you your options. You may proceed on one of those. Thank you. I'm going to call the 5 o'clock variance hearing. Mr. Potter for 153 East Beach Road, Susan Brayton Tight Tank. And we visited the scene of this.
What's that?
I was going to say the scene of the crime, but that's not appropriate. The scene of this proposal before,
Yes.
and you're back before us. As we discussed at the last meeting, we are working on a tight tank
Yep.
regulation, but do not yet have it
No.
in place.
No, I'm giving you, that's a copy of the letter I sent to both the butters. So I'm just giving you the copy of one. I used the same, just change the names. So I'm not, instead of making copies of everything. But
And you
that's,
still have the green card for the other property,
which one?
for the 1201?
I got, I'll explain that one
Okay.
when I get there.
This is 153 East Beach Road we're discussing.
Okay, Susan Brayton, 153, Len Potter, Westport Environmental. The tight tank plan that we revisited, there's a cesspool on the site. This tank will replace that cesspool, and Matt looked at it with Gabby, took pictures, the whole bit. So there is something there, and this is gonna replace it. The variance, we did not have a variance hearing for the tight tank. This is the variance hearing. The abutters have been notified, and that's pretty much it. So I need a variance to install the tank.
Okay, just... 60. This variance is because normally we don't approve tight tanks
Right.
when there's for new construction or increased flow to an existing system, except for seasonal. Seasonal. No, that doesn't apply in any case because it's not publicly owned seasonal.
I thought there was, is there something in particular about this tank? Because I thought there was an exception for seasonal. At the end of that regulation, there's just a general exception for seasonal use.
Well, approval of a tight tank may be granted only to eliminate a failed on-site system, which the cesspool has failed presumably,
Right.
when no other feasible alternative to upgrade the system exists.
Okay.
We can make, I mean, I think the, the no tight tank can be constructed in a velocity zone. This is a coastal beach, Barrier Beach or
Right.
something, right?
It's a very big.
It's a Berry Beach.
Unless it replaces a tank in existence on the site as of 1995.
No.
And I think that means tight tank, but it's not clear,
Well, probably just a septic tank, but
you know.
you can't have a septic tank there, we know that, ape. We know that,
Yeah. I prefer a tight tank to a septic tank.
correct, correct.
Um,
It's the same book, just different cover.
Well, at least you don't have to deal with the SAS issues.
Absolutely, yep.
And so the variance in this case is placement of the tank outside of the velocity zone, either horizontally or vertically is not feasible. So
Mm.
that's the variance you're looking for. is
Right.
267. And, well, may use of a tight tank at an existing seasonal use facility as remedial upgrade of a failed system, serving that upgrade. So I guess we could say it's in compliance with 260.8. The approval has to be renewed upon transfer of the property, and they have to record a deed restriction for the tight tank, limiting it to the seasonal use and approved design flow. Okay.
So what's the variance from? What
I
section?
think we're saying it is not a variance. I think what we are proposing to have a regulation that would not allow it, but I think
Okay,
as I'm reading this now,
yeah,
it would be allowed under
Okay.
Title V.
so there's no variance per se. Okay,
I didn't think it would be allowed under our regulation.
Huh?
I think the variance, wasn't the variance from our regulation? Because there's no tank there previously.
No newly constructed, yeah, well, this is the no newly constructed confusing language that we were talking about in the earlier hearing.
But it talks about replacing a tank that's been in existence since March of '95,
Right.
but there wasn't one that ever existed there.
no.
So I
Right.
think the
I think
variance,
that's what it is.
Yes.
Okay, so a variance from our regulation 6.0. Because it doesn't replace a tank, it replaces a
I
system.
understand, but- So if I write on the plan what the variance was granted for, so I'm gonna say,
Yeah,
local Westport Board of Health Regulation 6.0?
yeah,
Okay.
okay. And at this point, we don't have a specific tight tank regulation that we can
That's okay.
address. I'm sure you're
Do what you,
just happy about that.
I'm happy about it.
So can I just ask, kind of, this is more just a general
Sure.
question based on your experiences. is
Sure.
Why are, why are the lot owners kind of opposed to doing an above-ground, tank that maybe needs to get pumped more frequently, but then you don't have all the issues with, installing and inspecting?
I don't think you can put a septic tank above ground
Yeah.
unless it's out of the flood zone.
Right.
Because when that storm surge comes in,
Yeah.
it's just gonna wipe that tank right off the,
Right.
You put
So,
it
I
in
mean,
the
the
what?
ones that,
The self-containment, I think.
the self-containment kind of thing.
you mean a 2,000 gallon septic
Well, I
tank?
didn't know how big, I guess I'm,
The minimum is
he's talking
2,000.
about a trailer that has self-containment on board
Yes,
versus a septic tank.
yeah, so maybe that's the only option, is it has to be self-contained in the
Yes,
trailer.
but then you
There's
have
just
a,
not enough capacity.
then you
to
have
do
a
it.
problem
Well, they
because
have
you can't,
self-containment currently.
you can't transport it up the road and go
Right.
dump it in the state campgrounds.
Right.
Because now you're transporting sewage over public ways.
Uh-huh.
And if you get a pumping company that's willing to do it, when they come in, it's a PVC tank. When they start sucking the effluent out, the whole thing implodes.
Uh-huh.
So they gotta go very slow and so on and so forth
Well, this property, I think it's this property, has been on self-containment for
for a while, yes.
3 years plus.
She's put it in her permit.
Right, so she hasn't had a tank there for some
Right,
time.
right.
Well, she's never had a tank, it was a cesspool.
Right.
Right.
So they've been on self-containment. But
Yeah.
now they're saying, well, we want to put a tank in the ground because we had a cesspool, so we should be allowed a tank, is I think what they're saying.
Right, okay.
We're not thrilled. We'd rather see it continue with self-containment, but we don't have any leverage, I guess. Except for storms.
It's
May
very
take care of it.
difficult and miserable to get these tanks in the ground down there because the marsh, it's all filled in marsh.
Mm.
When you start digging the hole, the water comes from everywhere.
Mm.
That's why I've tried to raise the tank, get it out of the water table some, but they can elevate the trailer. It's not an easy experience, believe me.
Well, we definitely want to hold harmless on this because I'm guaranteeing nothing on this.
Right.
I don't think we have any other recourse but to approve it.
Mhm.
Well, I suppose we could deny from our local regulation, but I think that's a weak, that would be hard to
No, I mean,
sustain at this point until we have a stronger tight tank regulation, so. Any further questions or discussion?
nope.
No?
I would entertain a motion.
So I move that we approve the system for tight tank for 153 East Beach Road, owned by Susan Brayton, dated 5/2/24. We're redoing the regulation from the Board of Health regulation variance. Do we need that?
It's
6.0.
6.0.
Okay, and with the following conditions: Concom review and hold harmless agreement.
And compliance with Title V tight tank requirements.
Yes.
Okay, and which is the maintenance agreement for.
A deed restriction, the maintenance agreement.
The one-year contract at
Yeah.
least, and so on and so forth.
Oh.
Alarm.
Motion made and seconded to approve the tight tank at 153 East Beach Road with those conditions. This is based on a variance of a local septic regulation 6, provision 6.0.
What would the deed restriction be?
It's a restriction,
Notifies you
it
that there's-
notifies that there's a tight tank.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a provision of 2.6
Okay.
of the board, that's, yeah, it's fair. Okay, all in favor? Aye, that's unanimous, thank you.
I will send this now to conservation. I didn't want to put, this is just to be a full notice of intent. I didn't want to do that unless this board okayed it first.
Okay, so.
There's a lot of time in the meeting.
Concom as well?
Yeah, I think Concom.
Yep.
That one. Okay. So I think we do another ditto,
Yep.
but you said something different about or something.
Now, this
You want
particular
this one.
property, on the western side is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Mass Department of Environmental Management, Boston, Mass. That's where I sent it. You probably never get anything back. I've done it before.
They own the property
Yes, they own the lot, on the west side.
for 201.
For the west side of 201. If you look at map geo, you're looking at 201, the left-hand side, the western side belongs to the Commonwealth. of
Oh,
Mass.
this is the abutter you say?
That's the above.
Okay, gotcha.
The other side, the eastern side, owner's unknown, owner unknown.
Okay,
And you can check the records.
okay,
It does say that the address is 816 Main Road, that's the town hall.
okay.
Okay.
It's the same situation.
Same.
You got an existing raised deck, the trailer site is shown on the plan, that's pretty much what he's been doing. He's got a shed with a wood deck out in the back. Part of it's on the state property, I can't help that. And the tank is gonna go right in the middle of that existing deck, 55 feet from the marsh. And that's the best I can do with what I got. The cesspool is shown between the proposed tank and the trailer site. And Matt, again, looked at that with Gabby, took pictures, the whole bit.
And the cesspools on both these will be pumped out and,
Yeah, filled in, yes. That's note 4.
okay, any other comments or questions on this one? Otherwise, we'll do a motion.
Nope, so I move that we approve the plan for 201 East Beach Road, owned by Andrew Vivenzio, dated 4/30/24. It would be with all the same conditions and variants that were in the
Of
previous.
local regulation 6.0.
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Just relevant to this, I don't want to confuse we'd already had enough confusing discussions. This is just a preliminary draft on a tight tank regulation that would clarify this going forward, that would give us,
Have a good night, guys.
thank you, Mr. Potter.
You too, Lenny, take care.
We'll have to look at the no newly constructed, that language is obviously a problem.
Well, Title V uses reconstructed.
Reconstructed, okay. Well, we have to work on that. So, I think it says no new construction, or whatever, but anyways, newly constructed, I think he's talking about the tense, so
Yeah.
new construction. And then, that's similar to, I think, what we have in our regulation now, but the existing tight tanks, we're trying to phase those out. So if it hasn't been permitted for 2 seasons, it would be considered abandoned and can't be reinstated to use unless a variance. And if it's failed, it can't come back. They have to go to self-contained. So that's just the thoughts. We'll come back to this. If you have thoughts on this before the working meeting, we can maybe we'll try to work on the language about newly constructed, since that's been raised in another context. But just, we don't have any, and I'm not sure actually this would address those situations, because it's not an existing tight tank. It's new tight tank locations. Within 100 feet of waters. Ooh, well, these are within 100 feet of waters of the common water. But anyways. Okay, anything else? Our next working meeting will be July 24th, and our next regular meeting, July 22nd.
Second, yeah.
Any topics for the next meeting? Anything unanticipated?
I can't think of anything right now.
Nope. Then,
So therefore, being no other business, I move that we adjourn this meeting at 5:35 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.